Today we will talk about Grammar Science Part 2. First, look at this picture like this. We can make an unbounded number of conjunctions using a finite number of rules. It is a recursive rule. It is natural to try to capture all conjunctions by means of recursive rules of this general form. X arrow X conjunction X. If a string of words can be conjoined, then it is a constituent. Thus, conjunction becomes a test for the constituent. We can tell it is principal one. Also, the parallel strings joined by the conjunction must be constituent, and we can test by constructing another sentence in which the string is conjoined. And if the constructed sentence is well formed, the string is a constituent. So let's find what is constituent. To March to Lisa, a man, a girl. On Monday, on Tuesday, chased bird chased Lisa, and chased bird on Monday, chased Lisa on Tuesday is a constituent because the words are conjoined. And last question, in the sentence Homer handed Lisa Maggie yesterday, is the string handed Lisa Maggie yesterday a constituent? We can test by constructing a sentence in which the string is question is conjoined with another one like Homer handed Lisa Maggie yesterday and handed Lisa SLH today. It is well-formed sentence, so it is a constituent.
The conjunction constituency test analyzes sentences with conjunction using the rule X arrow X conjunction X. To apply this rule, we need a way to check how words in sentence group together to form a constituent. One method we already learned is conjunction, but another useful method is proform replacement. In many languages, a repeated expression can be replaced with a similar expression and more simpler, and this is called proform replacement. The first case is with pronouns. Here are two example sentences. A. Homer chased Bart and Marge saw Bart, and B is Homer chased Bart and Marge saw him. In these sentences, Bart in sentence A is replaced by him in sentence B, but both sentences have the same meaning. To introduce him as a sentence element, we can say that him belongs to the same category as Bart. Therefore, we can add a rule like N arrow him. The second case is with verb phrases. A is Homer chased Bart and Marge chased Bart too, and B is Homer chased Bart and Marge did so too. In these sentences, the repeated phrase chased Bart in sentence A is replaced by the predicate did so in sentence B. And again, the meaning stays the same. Just like with pronouns, if we classify chased Bart as a VP, then did so can also be classified as a VP. So the rule VP arrow did so can be added.
I will explain the proform replacement test, which is one of the constituency tests in syntax. The basic idea is very simple. If a string of words can be replaced by a proform, like it, there, then one, or her, then that string is constituent. We can summarize this with principle 2, like if a string of words can be replaced by a proform, then it is a constituent. To apply the test, we check if the part of the sentence can be replaced by a proform while still making it a grammatical sentence. For example, Homer left a tip on the table, but Marge left a tip under it. Here, on the table is replaced by under it, showing it is a constituent. So the test gives us the evidence of which parts of the sentences are real units. Let's look at more cases. I left a tip on the table, but Mr. Burns didn't leave a tip there. On the table is a constituent, and Bart gets a new radio on his birthdays, but Milhouse always gets a new one then. On his birthdays is a constituent. Homer bought the green deck chair with solar heated footbath, and Mo bought the blue one. The deck chair with solo heated footbed is a constituent. Through these examples, we can see how proforms help identify constituents in syntax.
So, first, let's talk about ellipses. Ellipses happen when part of a sentence is left unspoken but the meaning is still clear. So, for example, instead of saying Homer could chase Bart and Marge could chase Bart, we can simply say Homer could chase Bart and Marge could null too. Here, the second chase Bart is omitted, but the meaning is exactly the same. So now, how do linguists explain this phenomenon? One idea is to treat ellipses in a way similar to proform replacement. In proform replacement, we substitute a phrase with something like this so. But in ellipses, instead of adding a pronounced form, we introduce an empty or silent element which is symbolized with null. In other words, the missing part is still there in the structure, but it is not spoken. The idea also connects to constituency tests. If a group of words can be omitted as a whole and the sentence still sounds natural, then that group is a constituent. That is why we call it the ellipsis test. So here it is the first example. Homer left a tip on the table but Marge didn't know. Here, null stands for leave a tip on the table. Since this string can be elided, we know that it is the constituent of verb phrase. The second example is Bart gets a new radio on his birthday, but Milhouse always gets a new synchrotron null. Here, null represents on his birthdays. Since the sentence is still grammatical, we can conclude that on his birthdays is a constituent, specifically a propositional phrase. The third example is Homer bought the green deck chair with solar heated footbed and Moe bought the blue null. Here, null stands for deck chair with solar heated footbed. This shows that the noun phrase is a constituent. The last example is I know that Marge plans to visit Waxahachie, but I don't know why null. Here, null stands for Marge plans to visit Waxahachie. Since this entire clause can be elided, it must also be a constituent.
I will present about this location test, which is one of the constituents tests in syntax. This location refers to the phenomenon where a part in a sentence can be moved to the front. For example, the base sentence Bart gave Maggie to Lisa can be changed into Maggie Bart gave to Lisa or to Lisa Bart gave Maggie. We can see similar case with this sentence. Homer left the car and the lawn mower in the garage. It can also be expressed as the car and the lawn mower Homer left in the garage, or in the garage Homer left the car and the lawn mower. However, not every sequence of words can be dislocated. For example, Maggie to Lisa, Bart gave is ungrammatical. And the car and the lawn mower in the garage Homer left also sounds unacceptable. This leads us to principle 4, or P4. P4 states, if a string of words can be dislocated, then it is a consistent. In other words, only constituents can be moved to the front of a sentence. Not the sentence in here, but let's consider the sentence Bart gave Maggie to Lisa. Here, Maggie is a noun phrase, so it can be dislocated. To Lisa is a PP, prepositional phrase, so it can be also dislocated. But Maggie to Lisa is not a constituent, and therefore it can't be moved. This example shows how dislocation work as constituency test.
Now we know what is the dislocation, then we can do a dislocation test. This test is a little different from other tests. In the later test, we adopted the phrase structure rule, but in dislocation test, we use a rule that moves or dislocates sentence parts. It means only constituent can move. Let's see some examples. Homer told Lisa that the earth is flat on Thursday. We can change it like this. There are some differences from original sentence, but these are correct sentences. It means these three, Lisa that the earth is flat on Thursday, are the constituent. However, in this sentence, it is not a correct sentence, so told Lisa is not a constituent. In another example, it is same. Mr. Shin told us that we need to ask a good question. We can change like these sentences, and it is grammatical correct, so we know us and that we need to ask a good question is a constituent. But in this case, us that we need to ask a good question is not a constituent because it's not a grammatical correct. Now let's summarize. Conjunction test. If words can be joined with and or, they form a constituent. Proform replacement test. If a phrase can be replaced by a pronoun or a proform, it is a constituent. Ellipsis test. If a phrase can be left out and the sentence is still grammatical, it is a constituent. And finally, dislocation test is if a phrase can be moved to the front or back of a sentence, it is a constituent. Thank you.